Hello again, my name is Roland Zimmermann. I'm here to talk to you today on our channel Uncorked about blueberry wine. How is it made and what is it? Sit back and relax, you're going to be entertained. First question, what is blueberry wine? Well, like the name says, in most instances and in most jurisdictions in North America and the rest of the world, blueberry wine is actually made from blueberries. For most people who are not aware of it, there are two types of blueberries in the world that are primarily grown. The ones that you get at the grocery store, they tend to be about this size, and then the ones you get in the wild, called wild blueberries, tend to be about pea size. They're very, very small. The point of why I'm expressing these two different varieties of blueberries is because you can make wine from both of them. However, the cultivated ones, the bigger ones, tend to be juicier, so you get a higher yield, but a lot less flavor. Whereas the wild blueberries, they tend to be far more concentrated in their flavor and in their color, but they have a much smaller yield. Why is that important? Well, the yield comes into play in terms of cost factor. If you take 1 pound of regular blueberries and you get so many liters, and you take 1 pound of wild blueberries, you get so many liters. Obviously, the numbers will be very different because the quantity of juice or flesh inside the berries of the wild blueberries is much smaller than it is in the cultivated blueberries. Now, you might ask, why is that? Well, that's a number of reasons. Wild blueberries obviously grow in the wild, like their name states, and have a much smaller circumference because they are subjected to numerous different pressures in their environment, such as lack of sunlight or too much sunlight, or over-harvesting by natural species that feast or eat the blueberries. Whereas the cultivated blueberries, they're treated much like you would any other produce that you grow in a agricultural commercial setting. They're grown to increase their size and to increase their weight. So it's a different mechanism in terms of where the market is intended for the blueberries, and that's what dictates basically which blueberries you should be using to make the wines. Now, as I mentioned earlier, what it is as in most jurisdictions in North America, the minimum content for naming a product is about 75%. Now, what does that mean? It means that 75% of the volume has to actually contain the product, and in this case, blueberries. So that's a very important factor because blueberries, believe it or not, are actually quite expensive in relation to other fruits that you can make wine out of, such as apples or grapes. So blueberries are, again, a sort of a premium product or a premium fruit when considered on a commercial scale for wine production. To the alcohol content, because that's frequently a question we get about the blueberry wine. Now, blueberries aren't actually that sweet when they naturally occur in nature, or even when they're cultivated. They're not as sweet, they don't have the same level of bricks that grapes would, for example, have. Grapes at harvest or at maturity would usually range anywhere from, say, 18 bricks to anywhere from maybe to 28. Blueberries, on the other hand, range in bricks anywhere from 5 to 10. Bricks, for those of you that aren't aware of what that is, it's a sugar scale. This is a scale by which international bodies have agreed that, okay, this much sugar in solution equals this many bricks. The formula is a little more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. It's basically just a scale so we can determine how sweet a product is without actually having to taste it every single time. Although, honestly, that would be a nice job to have, tasting fresh fruit as it comes in every day to make sure it's sweet enough. Well, sorry, we don't have any postings for that at the moment. Why the bricks level is important is because bricks determine how much alcohol potentially can be yielded from a fruit. In the case of blueberries, because their bricks is so low, you would actually get a very, very low alcohol content. Why that's important for you, the consumer, is because 99.999% of all wineries that produce a blueberry wine have to add sugar. Now, we do that in our own facility as well with our wild blueberry wine, and we don't make a secret about it. It's simply a fact of life that if we want to get up to about 12% alcohol, you must have a certain level of brix in order to achieve that specific alcohol content. And that is determined by the yeast as it ferments the product. That's a simple biological calculation. Check on our earlier videos, you'll see some reference to how to calculate your percentage of alcohol. What does blueberry wine taste like? In comparison to regular grape wines, blueberry wines, believe it or not, taste like blueberries. If they don't taste like blueberries, then the winemaker may have added another fruit, such as apples, as a base to provide a lower cost alternative, or because the specific year that the blueberries were harvested in may not have provided the aroma profile that the winemaker was looking for. In our specific case with our wild blueberries, we're not able to harvest them every single year. I have a funny story about wild blueberries, actually. My wife and I, one summer, many years ago, were going cottaging up towards the Sudbury area. For those of you that don't know where that is, it's about 1,000 kilometers north of where we reside here in Niagara. So it's very much further north. And my mum is an avid maker of jams and jellies, and she specifically said, Roland, you must bring back some wild blueberries, because she knew that wild blueberries grow in the northern part of Ontario. And I said, okay, sure, no problem. So on the way back, we stopped at this highway stand, and I can't say the gentleman's name on this video, but there was a gentleman who was selling some wild blueberries out of the back of his pickup truck. For those of you that are in Ontario, I'm going to say Highway 11, and that should be enough of a clue for you. The point is that the gentleman had indeed some wild blueberries, and I picked up a tray of them. I think they cost a small fortune, if I remember correctly. And I was chatting with him a little bit because it was late Sunday night and we were on our way home and fully vacationed, very relaxed. And he was asking me, oh, so you work at a winery? And I said, yes, I work at a winery. Oh yeah, we sometimes sell to wineries blueberries, wild blueberries for, winemaking. Do you do that? And now, truthfully, at the time, we had never made a wild blueberry wine or any blueberry wine, so being very relaxed from vacation, said, yeah, sure, why not? So I gave him my business card, didn't think anything further of it, got home safely that night. And then on Monday morning, roughly at around 10 or 11 o'clock, I get a phone call from this gentleman. He says, oh yeah, hi, I'm the gentleman you spoke with on the highway regarding wine, blueberry wine. I said, okay, yeah. And he says, yo, you know what? I checked my cooler and I have some. Oh, great. Okay, perfect. And so I said, okay, fine. And I'm communicating with him on the telephone as I'm seeing the semi-tractor trailer pull into our driveway. And needless to say, it was indeed this gentleman I had spoken with on the highway. And he says, yeah, I got the truck full. And I said, pardon? Yeah, I got the truck full of blueberries. I cleared out the cooler. Oh, okay. Needless to say, a number of pounds of blueberries later, we were in the wild blueberry business of making wine. Now, the story continues because the wine itself that we made, which wasn't really our intention to make that volume, won numerous awards to the degree that we sold out very quickly. And when we tried to call this gentleman, because obviously I had his phone number at this point in time, to see if we can get some more, the phone number was disconnected. I don't know where exactly he got the blueberries from, but I have my suspicions. Well, that was the fun adventure of how we got started into wild blueberry production. But what we've also learned over the years with blueberry wines specifically is that not every year is a year to make blueberry wine, because there are certain factors like the weather, whether it's too hot or whether it's too cold, whether the existing flora and fauna will let the blueberries even come to fruition because there have been many years where the crop looked very good in the woods and then the bears ate it. Yeah, so unfortunately, wild blueberries are a very inconsistent producer in terms of being able to get it. So when we do get it, we usually produce a very, very large quantity to make sure we have enough to supply our needs for about 4 or 5 years, versus with grapes, which are more consistent, we do it on a regular basis. We know every year approximately how much we're going to be getting, which is usually close to what it was last year. So that's the story of how wild blueberries, or blueberry wine specifically, is made. Now, we also frequently get asked, what do we pair this wonderful wine with? Well, I'll tell you. My favorite is New York style cheesecake with a little bit of the wine actually drizzled on top. Or if you have a bit of a cooking vein, if you reduce the wild blueberry to about 3/4 of what the volume actually is, so reduce the wine down to a more of a syrupy consistency, that is heaven. And that I'm sorry I can't convey that sufficiently in a video, but you really have to try it. Well, that's it for wild blueberries and blueberry wine in general today. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe down below, and provide us with any comments. We look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much.